Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are so excited to have our good friend Susan joining us today and really ecstatic what she's bringing to the table. We're going to talk a little bit more, about art, about so much more. But first and foremost, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Very good.
Yeah, good. And
Yeah.
where are you based out of?
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Wow, what's the weather like there? I must ask.
It's cold
Oh
and
my
we've had
goodness.
snow flurries, but yeah, it's February.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, we're in New York, a little chilly here, but nothing like you. And I heard it's beautiful where you live. Well, we're going to talk today about some of the therapies you offer, the education, and so much more. So, Susan Blue is your full name, right? And she's
Yes.
offering craniosacral therapy. So, craniosacral therapy, somatic trauma resolution. We're going to talk a lot about the work she's doing, how she can help anyone out there today listening. But also, I think it's important on our first show like this to get to know each other. And I think our listeners can benefit from finding out more of, your background. So I got to read a little bit about you. Would you mind sharing, your journey and your background with our listeners today?
Well, I'm very much a hands-on person. I was a potter before I became a massage therapist.
Oh, wow.
And so that's been a 44-year journey, and 23 of it has been in the cranial world. Because one of the things that I noticed was your condition of your nervous system determined how well you came through your accidents, how you were able to recover,
Mm-hmm.
and how you could either recover fully or not. And I just thought that was so interesting that I met a biodynamic trained craniosacral therapist,
Wow.
and she had a different take on how she applied those skills. And I listened to a couple of her introductions, and I thought, I'm going to take this training because that would be great work for people who have had multiple accidents or have an illness with their accident. And so I took the training, and here I am 23 years later.
Amazing. Well, I also just want to bring up, going back, I was reading about your whole family's kind of independent thinkers, right? The women in your family, you
Yeah,
mentioned your father, your
yeah,
parents, you said were children of the Depression, and they
yes,
both actually graduated high school and went to college, which is very
right.
unusual. So I commend them on their work ethic, and clearly it passed down along to you, right? And um, I was reading about your first art teacher, everything that you
Yeah.
do. Did you want to, talk a little bit about that journey with your mother and with your grandmother? Just like getting to know you on a personal level as well.
Okay. Well, my grandmother, I love her name, Ruby Eliza, and her last name was Warren, and then she got married and she became Ruby Newby. And I can remember picking up the phone and answering it for her and then giggling because her friend Rosie Posey was calling for Ruby Newby. And I think I was about 4 years old. And at that time, my grandmother had an art gallery in Tucson, Arizona. And she had to do further education to continue teaching art. And she was in her 50s and she thought, no, I'm not going to go back to school now. So she opened up an art gallery. She really helped promote Arizonan artists, but she'd been active. I would say my grandmother was an activist, and she was part of the group of women that got us our vote, our right to vote. She was also part of the coalition of women, American women in the arts. And at that time, they weren't really recognized, they were considered hobbyists. And so she was very much a feminist. And, so my mom was the middle child. She had three children.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom got a scholarship to Rollins College.
Wow.
And and everybody wanted her. And my mother was very, very, very intelligent, and everybody wanted her in her department, or in their department, I should say. And she decided on social work because it was the best thing that she could think that she could do to help people. Because going through depression, um, that's what you did. You helped each other.
Well, it's beautiful that you
Um,
are all there for each other. Go ahead, continue.
yeah.
Sorry.
So I grew up with a mom who was aware of vitamins and good nutrition, and we lived a lot in mining town, so we didn't have a very sophisticated or educated group of of people in the community, and so she was really seen as an odd duck, and so we settled in Colorado. I went to first grade, and then we were back in Arizona in second grade, and then third grade, we settled in Grand Junction, which is on the western slope. And it has more in common with eastern Utah than the rest of the state because we're dry desert, plateau country, a lot of farming and ranching and railroad. And so that was the main industries there. And my dad was a mining engineer, and he started out with the Atomic Energy Commission for uranium.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, that's what brought us into Colorado because that was the boom then.
Oh, now,
So,
okay.
yeah. And they closed down, and he went to work for Climax Uranium and was there for a number of years. So I went from rough and tumble childhood because we were in mining towns and it was boom town, and there was what we called at that time tramp miners. They'd be there for a
Mm-hmm.
paycheck or two, and then they'd be gone or lose their job because of alcoholism.
Ah,
And so, when you have that kind of home life, you're left on your own a lot. So um, my socialization was kind of tough, and so was my brother's because he was about 5 years older than me. And I think by the time we both got into high school, even with the age difference between us, it took us that long to learn not to be so mouthy and ready with
mm-hmm.
our fists.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah. So it's funny to look back on it. And the other thing is that I'm glad that society has changed that much, and especially here in the Western states.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing this. It's always good again to get a little bit deeper to find out to, who we're speaking with today. And I love your story. And I know I want to talk more about you. I know surviving developmental trauma and the somatic approach, but let's just also break it down to start. What is craniosacral therapy, if you don't mind? And we'll talk about somatic trauma resolution as well, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Okay. Well, craniosacral is working with the brain
Okay.
and the nerves that come from the brain down through your spine and out from your spine. And so, one of the things that I do as a cranial sacral therapist is that a person lays on the table, and I can have my hand at their sacrum and at their head. So I'm like two hands, holding the whole body. And what I'm looking for is the movement of the cerebral spinal fluid, which is inside the spine and the
Mm,
cranium. And when it moves up the spine, the
yeah.
brain will move forward and widen out. And then when it pulls, it'll just rest, and then it goes down the spine and the
Okay.
brain will get skinny. And
Wow.
so that's the motility. And if
Okay.
something is impeding that, that's what I'm looking for,
Got it.
is that motility within the system. So that's I'm a person that has kind of an extrasensory perception. And so that's how we look for it.
Beautiful. And I was reading, there's soon to be available. You have a little series coming up. I want to talk about that too. And of
Okay.
course, talk about more about the people you're helping and who could benefit from, the work that you're doing.
Well, it's like defragging your nervous system. You know how
Okay.
we defrag our computer? We get rid of those extra files that are running in the background. Our nervous system can get overloaded, and it's part of how we feel really stressed out or we feel like we're having a problem managing our stress. So, craniosacral is a great way to unload those excess files running in the background in your nervous system. And so it helps you sleep better, digest better, all the body functions are better. And the class that I'm offering that'll be online soon. It's called Somatic Processing, and the title of it is Unraveling the Threads of Your Experiences. And so the somatic means you're doing body work. You're sensing your body instead of thinking about the past. It's like you feel how your body is organized around, like thinking of your favorite uncle.
Got
And
it.
what happens is that you have body felt sensations. And instead of talking about what you think, you follow the body felt sensations because that represents how the nervous system is organized in your body in current time. And that can be events from long ago. It's useful for trauma resolution.
Mm-hmm.
This work is just, designed to give people some skills for everyday living. And
Interesting.
so, yeah, and for a person who has trauma, it will make them a better client and more available to sit with the uncomfortableness of what's happened to them.
And would you mind sharing, the word trauma? What does that entail? What are some of the things that, people have trauma don't even know? Could you share some of that maybe some of us could listening could identify
Yeah.
with?
Okay. Well, trauma, yeah. I mean, trauma, the thing that makes trauma what it is, it happens too fast. Um, it's the process of all the pieces of it happened too soon,
Yeah.
and you have to go on instinct to deal with it. And so you don't have like a cognition within yourself. And so you know you got through it,
Mm-hmm.
but the impact of it is much like overwhelm. We're kind of like, oh, I'm out there and uh, help me, that kind of thing. Or how am I going to get through this? And so that too much, too soon, too fast is part of the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens with trauma is that we feel like we get disconnected from ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And with that disconnection, oftentimes there's shock. And shock is something that has to be dealt with very specifically because too much shock can kill us.
Yeah.
And so nature has designed us to go out into our field. And that's where we get that frozen
Yeah.
or I'm beside myself sense. And that can come with trauma, and it usually
Okay.
is part of it. And so you don't feel connected to yourself, and it's getting that connection back. And it's
Absolutely.
getting the adrenaline, cortisol, stress hormones to come out in little pieces instead of big pieces so you don't get re traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes some skill. It takes skill in touch, it takes skill in terms of how we talk to people, our contact, and how we give them a sense of containment.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing this. And sometimes
Mhm.
people also have trauma that isn't like unknown, right? Childhood trauma.
Yeah,
Not everybody
right,
realizes there's something's bothering them or there's something even there. So,
right.
how do you bring this out? Could you kind of explain the process? And I also know you want to talk a little bit about your business partner as well and a lot of the somatic side of things too. So, I know this is our first show together, which I'm excited about. I just want to make sure we're covering
Okay.
everything
Okay.
that's important to you.
So the process from childhood, even babies, it's like it's body felt. A baby doesn't have language, neither do small children. And
Hmm.
so they have body feelings. And so what I do is that I watch for change in eye focus, color of the skin, gestures, change in the breath. And I'll say, oh, this doesn't feel good right now. And a little kid will go, they'll look at me and go, like
Yeah.
that, because it's like I'm giving voice to what they're feeling. And so with children, it's depending on the child, it's like they're either on the table and they're engrossed in the work or they're bouncing around all over the room.
Yeah.
And I'm basically tracking them and then making a friendly kind of contact to touch parts of their body just to give their nervous system that feedback loop so it can do better self-correction.
Yeah.
And so I just find it really fascinating and it's a ton of fun because kids are fun.
Oh,
And it also makes me rethink the whole process of how we think of ourselves as human beings because there's such a biodynamic intelligence going on in our systems and it's there from the get-go. But it's it's like we're aware of it, but it's like we're not. I don't think we're as connected as we have been.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
And well, I also read that you're a survivor of developmental trauma. And
oh yeah,
would you mind
yeah.
sharing that with us?
Well, my mother was mentally ill. If she was diagnosed today, she would probably be called bipolar with schizoid affect. Um, for the time that she was hospitalized and treated, she was termed schizophrenic. And so she would just lose it. I mean, she was just a really she was a scary mom.
Mm.
And with us being in mining communities and my dad being an engineer and being out of the family, we didn't have another adult to help calm or see her through her episodes. So my brother and I tag teamed with our younger sister, and I think in a lot of ways, when my mother wasn't in her mental illness issues, she was a pretty good mother, and she really taught us a lot of skills. But I think it affected us too because it's like we didn't grow up with a great sense of safety, at home. And then our early environment with the mining towns, there wasn't much safety. And
Oh.
our adaptation was being tough kids, which kind of made us like snotty brats.
Oh, all right. I get it. I get it. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So kids act out what's happening in their lives, and it's a real flag for all of us to understand that they're not getting supported for who they are, and they don't have those skills. And there's a movement in psychology and medicine to recognize developmental trauma as a basis for not only mental health but also for physical health. And the empiricistic point of view from medicine and also psychology, they think, well, you've got to prove it. We've got to do these blind studies, but yet we have over 100 years of research about the effects of developmental trauma on people. And there's things that you can denote that they have in common. And so the psychologists and the doctors
Hmm.
that are going, we need to pay attention to this information instead of doing more studies. And we need to start looking at these things that are similar and
Yeah.
bring them into where can we create treatment that helps a person heal.
Mhm. Beautifully said. Well, I love that you're helping so many people, and clearly, it's been very successful. And you mentioned that you work, you spent over 35 years, I should say, right, in your own therapy to address your own issues, right? But you didn't heal them. So then you said you upgraded to your neurosis, so to speak, right? So then
That's
do
what
you want to talk? Oh, go ahead.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I learned things in therapy, but and I think I learned some things about how to manage myself, but I couldn't, I couldn't get to what it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just really frustrating. And so I'm really glad to see how that's changed. I was involved with a group of people for 5 years, Barry and Janae Weinhold. Barry has passed on. Has
Okay.
retired, but they've also published a lot of books in psychology.
Wow.
And they put together trauma-informed care that that defines the difference between event trauma and developmental trauma. And they listed all the research that's available for at what ages um, does the trauma affect you and how that can affect you in your adult life, which I think is really groundbreaking work. And so that work has been carried on, and there is a trauma informed care that gives you the full scope of that training online. And that was, I think, the third or the fourth time I retook the class. I had holes after I got out, and I'm going, oh, I was too busy processing my own stuff. So go back to the class again so I can really learn to be more effective in the way that I work with people. And it works real well with the cranial work because there can be things from embryology at that developmental stage that will set the nervous system on kind of go, and it
Yeah.
just will never calm down. And with that, I got the tools that would change how I did cranial to address that. And it's just amazing to see the body heal itself.
Well, I love this. And I just want to make sure, you're working specifically with people now. Is it just in Colorado with your work, or are you able to work with others, telehealth virtual wise in a sense?
The hands-on, it's a hands-on
Yeah.
process.
Okay, just
Okay.
making sure. So
Yeah.
you got to be
Right.
in the Colorado
Yeah.
area. And you do
Yeah.
offer a free 20-minute consultation as well, correct?
Right. Yeah. So I've had people call, and I do recommend that they look at things. Um, I'm a big fan of Oriental medicine, acupuncture. I mean, there's a broad scope of things that will bring us back to ourselves.
Yep.
And because I have that intuition, I can feel people and get a sense of like what's going on for them and what they need to address first. And so that's helpful, because they don't know how to sort it out. They don't
No.
have the background.
Well, I mean, the work you're doing, if you are just tuning in, we're talking about
Mhm.
somatic processing, trauma resolution, biodynamic sacral therapy, and all that she does with somatic blueprints to help. And
Mhm.
it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's a holistic form. And you are a registered craniosacral therapist, correct? Could you just share a
Yes,
little
I
bit
am.
about your credentials?
Now I'm biodynamically trained, so the RCST, which means I'm registered, is
Okay.
is what the biodynamically trained people hold. And we are our foundational training is 2 years, 700 hours. And so you really are embodied in the process of doing the work. We're working with the inner intelligence of the body and following it rather than imposing something else on the body for it to have to deal with. And it's just amazing how different that is from the upledger model. And I did do some work in that, but it because of my own injury history, it took me 3 months to recover from one session.
Oh my
I thought,
gosh.
okay, well, but
Wow.
this was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So and I think that there's a lot of adaptation and there's always new research going on. So I know that the upledger work has really changed in its
Absolutely.
scope too. But for me, that I knew that with 700 hours, I wouldn't be dangerous when I got out of my training and thinking that I knew
Yeah.
more than I did. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for being here, for joining us today, and enlightening us on all you do. At this
Thank you,
time, would you
Jill.
mind also sharing how we can contact you? Would you mind sharing the website, the phone number, any form of contact for our listeners to get a hold of you?
Okay. So my website is Somatic Blueprints with the Z with CO at the end.com. And it's Somatic Blueprints Colorado with this short CO. And so people can contact me through that. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Pleasure getting to know
Thank you,
you,
Jill.
seeing you here today, speaking with you. And again, don't forget you offer that free 20-minute consultation, right?
Yes. Yes. And Jill, it's so nice to meet you.
You too. You're such a doll. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being here and teaching me, new insight and information on, how, you can help people. And thank you. Thank you for that. And I hope we get to speak again.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you to
bye.
all of our listeners and viewers. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.